Well, Brittany, welcome to The Journey, and I'm the host of this particular podcast. And let me just tell you a little bit about what we do on The Journey. It is just ordinary people who come and tell their story about transformation. And you have been someone that I've known for a while, and we've done a couple events together, so I wanted to have you on the show. And so people that maybe have heard about you can get maybe a little bit better insight of who you are as a person, and maybe a little bit about your story and the journey that you've been on. So why don't we start with that? I mean, are you from the Rockford area, or you live in Rockford now, but you were born?
Yep, so I was born in Rockford.
Oh, born in Rockford, okay.
I was raised in Byron.
Okay.
So I lived there my whole life. Okay. Same house.
Okay.
My dad helped build it.
Okay.
And when I graduated high school is when I moved.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have siblings? Or?
I have one brother. And he's younger than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
But everyone knows him.
Everyone knows him?
Everyone's always known him and not me.
Oh, okay. So how is he always known? Because I don't know him and I know you.
Yeah,
so,
well, I mean, everyone who, growing up,
gotcha.
I would get, like, when I went into high school, everyone's like, you're Eric's sister. And I'm like, yeah, he's in middle school. How do you know this? I don't know. But we both are golfers, but he spent a lot of time with the older guys on the course. So they always knew who he was. Okay. And he's just cool. He's just cooler than me.
So who got you involved with golfing? How did that all come about?
My parents.
Okay.
Yeah, so we started golfing when we were little. I think I was probably like 3 or 4 when I started doing that, and that's something that I did all the way through college. That was something that was really important to me, and still is. I mean, this was a big weekend. It was the Masters weekend, so that was exciting.
Well, and maybe we can get into that story, because that was a whole story of transformation as well, and coming out of Tiger Woods and everything that happened. But before we jump into that piece, your mom and dad, they've been together for how long have they been together?
They're going to kill me for not remembering exactly how many years, but it's got to be like 35 or 36 years at this point.
Wow. Okay.
So they've been together for a very long time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, which is exciting.
And now, are they both from this area as well?
No. So my mom is from Chicago. Okay. And my dad is from Sweden.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
So he was born in Sweden?
He was born there. He moved here when he was 9.
Okay.
And moved to Rockford.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then eventually moved to Byron. My mom moved from Chicago to Stillman. Okay. So they both grew up in small towns near each other, but didn't really know each other, and met each other a little bit later.
So, as far as you know, the story that your dad told about why his parents, your grandparents, came over from Sweden, what was the story behind that?
Honestly, I don't know the specific reason. Okay. I should know this because we just went on a family trip to Sweden and did a whole tour of where he lived, where he went to school, all of the places, which was really awesome to kind of see even where my grandparents grew up. But yeah, we went to the last place that they were before they moved here, and we took pictures everywhere. People let us in their houses, which was really interesting.
Yeah, no
kidding. My farmore, which is my grandma, was like, I was born right here in this room. So we had some really interesting experiences being over there. But yeah, he moved here, didn't know how to speak English, got put in a class, and they were like, good luck to you.
That must have been pretty tough. I can just imagine.
Yeah, and he's a quiet person anyways, so I think maybe that helped. He could just observe, and he's really, really smart, so he catches on pretty quickly.
And what did he end up doing for a living?
He worked at the nuclear plant.
Oh, so, okay. Yeah. And what did he do there, as far as you know?
He worked in the operating room, I think is what they call it. So the control room where all of that stuff happens.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was, very smart with that too. Okay. He would always have tests, and I would remember he would be like, studying for this test, and he would come home and be like, I'm so mad, I got a 99%, and you're like, Dad,
really?
Okay, you missed one question, it's fine, but he just worked really hard at that, and would just study for hours and hours, but liked it, I think.
Okay. So did Mom work outside the home?
She did. She worked kind of before we were born, she worked in a few different places, and then she was a stay-at-home mom for a while. She worked at a sewing store in Byron, so she taught classes on like quilt making and stuff, and then she started her own business. So she worked out of our house doing embroidery and like alterations and stuff.
Gotcha.
So even though she was working, she was still at home.
Gotcha. Okay. And my mom and dad were similar. My dad worked primarily, and then my mom was mostly a stay-at-home mom. But then when she did go back to work, she worked in the school system, so she would be there when we left in the morning and be when we came home. And
my mom was always around for sure, and my dad was the opposite. He worked 12-hour shifts 7 days a week. So if we wanted to see him, we got up at 7, or we were home by 7 p.m. so that we could see him. So like Christmas and stuff always happened really early or really late, which was always interesting. But
Okay. Yeah, it sounded very similar. That was how it was at my home as well. Not that he worked always the same shifts, but that it was that dynamic that mom was the primary caretaker when dad was home. That's when navigated all those functions around. So they got you involved with golf. Did you play other sports as well, or? Not
really. I tried to play other sports, and I was not successful in them, which was fine. I really liked golf, so that was okay. In high school, I was always in choir and did some plays and that kind of stuff. And I took dance for 15 years, so I was involved in things outside of school.
So more the arts.
Kind of. I didn't ever take an art class until I got to college, which is weird,
so you did some performing arts and that type of arts, but then didn't get into any like actual art classes until. And where'd you go to school?
For college?
Yeah, for college.
Robert Morris University.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. I had some friends that their kids went there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was at the Waukegan campus because that's where the golf team was. So less exciting than being downtown.
Yeah.
But it was still good. I mean, I specifically went there to golf.
Okay.
So.
And so what was that journey like as far as the golf piece? Was that, because I don't know much about golf, and so tell me a little bit about, it seems like that is, obviously there's a physical component to it, but then there's also very much a mental and emotional component to it. So tell me how golf served you looking back on it.
Yeah. So I mean, growing up, obviously we were in tournaments, and our parents just kind of would like drop us off at the golf course and be like, all right, we'll be back later. It was a good babysitter, I guess, in a certain way, because we all got to like hang out and learn the game, but then also like there was a lot of fun being had as well. But once I got towards high school, my dad said, you can either get a job or you can keep golfing, but you need to take it seriously because you need to try and get a scholarship. So it was like help pay for college or help pay for college. One way or the other, you have to be doing something.
Sure.
So I obviously chose golf because I did not want to get a job, but also I liked it. So I was on the team and practiced all the time. I was always out golfing, and so I got a golf scholarship, which paid for like 75% of my school.
Oh, wow.
Which was really awesome. Yeah. And I mean, being able to do all of that stuff together, obviously the mental part of it is tough. And I mean, you see adults who are professionals and they can play around in, 4 hours. That's not the case in high school for girls. We were out there until the sun was down sometimes. And so it was like a lot of hours, very strenuous, mentally and physically.
So if you think back to either high school or college, what would be one of the hardest things, or not maybe the hardest, but if there was a setback that you had in your golfing experience, what would be, like, when you think about a disappointment or a setback?
I still have nightmares of certain courses, or I like replay holes in my mind of like, oh, I shouldn't have hit that club here, or like still to this day I want to go back to all these places and like replay these courses because they just haunt me forever, which I think is somewhat normal for people because you just focus on those parts of your game, but not really a full setback. I don't think, like, nothing specifically made me
Because a lot of times, like Dalton and I have talked about, in his case with wrestling, in my case with football and bodybuilding, I know that early on I was so caught up in the outcome that I, wanted to, win the state title, win the national title, win, that it was that I didn't recognize that the process of getting there was really what I gained the most out of.
Yeah.
In my case with the bodybuilding, when it was all said and done, you got a piece of plastic, the plastic trophy, right? And we would joke about how much energy and time we spent on the piece of plastic we got at the end.
Yeah.
But the real gold was the process of getting there.
Sure.
And for you, was it always just continue to improve and it was okay, or was there that aspiration of wanting?
I mean, at one point I definitely was like, I'm going to play on the LPGA tour. Like, this is what I'm going to do. But then I just didn't really have the dedication towards only golf, which I think I probably needed in order to do that, because I wanted to dance and I wanted to be in all these other activities. I also did, I was really involved with the wrestling program in high school. So, like, I wasn't fully in only golf. So I kind of had it in my mind that probably wouldn't happen. But I think maybe my hardest thing was once I would get mad, I couldn't be not mad. So once that was it for me. If I got mad on the course, it's over.
Which so you couldn't rebound after?
Not usually.
And
no.
And it's interesting because, like I said, I don't know much about golf, but a few golfers that I've worked with, very talented individuals, skilled at what they were doing, but if they lost their focus or lost their cool on the sixth hole, that round was over because they couldn't get it back until the next round, if even then. The next round I'd be okay. Like, once I could just be done and move on, it would be okay. And sometimes even on like the second 9 it would be okay, but I could never just have a bad shot and be like, it's okay, and then finish the hole well. It'd be like, no, this is a disaster, and then I would just be like all over the place. So for that piece of it, it may not have been the overall, like I mentioned, wanting to be, state champion or wanting to be, conference champion, whatever that was, because you had other interests that you put energy into. But when you were on the course, because you had done well and done it for so long, then is it right to say that you were pretty hard on yourself if you messed up?
Yeah, totally. I just think I knew I would never be the best at it, which I never felt like, okay, I'm going to go out today and get first place. Like, that was never a reality for me, I don't think. But I went downstate and played, and so I wasn't bad, but I wasn't the best. And I just tried to focus on being my best instead of trying to beat everybody, because I knew that wasn't going to happen. And I think that's one of those things that we come to that place and learn that for ourselves. I recognize I can't control who I'm going to be playing against, and how good they are, how well prepared they are. What I can just control me. And I think you learn that. I think the opportunity to learn that is even greater in individual activities or individual sports, more so than even a team. For sure.
Because it is all on you, and
you only have yourself when you're out there. I mean, you don't. Well, back then we didn't have phones, but even now, like, you can't have your phone on you, so you can't have, somebody helping you or utilizing those tools. It's like on you.
Just you.
We didn't have caddies to help us. If our coach was there, they could help us, but there's 6 people on your team and there's one coach, so they're not always with you. So you very much had to rely on your own skills to figure out what you're doing.
Well, and I think it's interesting, like with that, and we talk with individuals who have specialized in just one activity, and they put all their eggs in one basket, and how they may have had some success in that, but then they got out of balance. And I would think with golf being such a skill sport that it literally requires practice time. I was listening to a podcast just recently with Michael Phelps and how many hours he put into. I mean, genetically, structurally, he was phenomenal. All right, just how he was created physically, but he had to put so many hours into the pool, so many hours into the weight room for training, and he couldn't have those other distractions.
Right.
So tell me a little bit, because I'm very fortunate that I have a son that was a football player, hockey player, and all that, and then a daughter who was in performing arts, and so I get the best of both worlds. So tell me a little bit about the singing and the dancing, musicals and things like that.
Yeah, so I started dancing when I was 4. And I just loved it. It just made sense. And anyone who knows me now will know, like, she still dances. No matter where I am, I'm still dancing. Sure. It's my absolute favorite thing to do. It's when I feel the most like myself and the most like free. Like, I don't think about anything else when I'm dancing. So that's like my happy place.
Okay.
But I did that technically for 15 years, just doing the typical tap dance or tap jazz ballet, musical theater, that kind of stuff. So yeah, just classes in Byron. A teacher would come from a different city and teach classes there and have a recital every year and that kind of stuff. But that I was very hard on myself with.
What do you mean?
Very hard. I mean, I just, like, everything had to be perfect. I would make myself sick about it.
About the performances?
About the performances.
Okay.
Yeah. So making sure everything was right, and I very much would like shut everybody out. So I'm sure my mom has really nice stories about how nice I was to her in these moments. Sure. But yeah, I just very much needed to be perfect. Needed it all to be exactly the way it was supposed to be. No room for messing up. Which made it stressful. Yeah. But then in the end, it would be fun. If I did a good job, then I'd be like, oh, that was awesome. But it was stressful leading up to it.
So again, it was one of those things that you had some talent, had some gifts, you enjoyed aspect of it, but then when it came, similar to golf, when it came to the performance piece of it, there was an element tied into the outcome, and that's where you would be, where the anxiety would come, or where you would be hard on yourself.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have real quick, as we move on to something else, but do you have a favorite musical that you were in, or a play that you were in that stands out to you when you were in high school that you liked doing?
Well, the one that we talk about the most is The King and I. That was fun. I didn't have to say any words. I just was one of the dancers. And it was just really fun. Yeah. So
just the group of people that you were involved with. It was just a fun production to be in. Great. Yeah. So then you went to college and you were on a golf scholarship, and I know Robert Morris does a great job of having individuals and paying individuals that are athletic to be students there, and I've known some other individuals that have played football for them and played girls soccer and did exactly what you did. So when you got to Robert Morris, golf obviously was part of your experience, but what did you decide to major in? I mean, you have your dad, who is this seems to be very left-brained, very technical,
like
engineering, and mom seems to be a little bit more on the creative side.
So when I started looking for colleges, I thought I would like to be an interior designer. I don't know why. I never had experience in that. I didn't really know anybody who did that. So I started looking for schools that had that with a golf program, which is nearly impossible.
Sure.
Everyone's suggestion was, there's a golf course down the street, so you could just bring your clubs and like play after school. And I was like, that's not the same thing. I'm not doing that.
If you pay me to go play.
Yeah, I was like, that's really not what I'm looking for.
Yeah, sure.
So when we talked to Robert Morris, they were like, we'll give you a scholarship. And I was like, okay, well, what programs do you have? And they talked about graphic design. So I was like, sure, that sounds fine. We'll go with that, see what happens. I didn't really know anything about that. I had done some classes in high school. We had a Flash class where we learned how to animate and stuff, but nothing that was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So, I kind of changed my major to go there.
And what was that experience like? Not the changing major part, but as you start taking the art classes, and it's not just art classes, but it's also using the modality of computers to make art.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, so some of the classes were real rough because we had to do like still lifes and things, and I cannot draw at all.
Okay.
So those were really hard, and my teachers were very kind to me, where I would like sit behind somebody and be like, oh, that girl's in the front of half of the still life, so she's going to be in my picture. And they were like, okay, that's fine, I guess, because they knew that I could not draw, so they were kind. But yeah, learning some of the programs or just kind of figuring my way through that, the computer part just came a lot easier to me.
Okay.
It made more sense. It seems to work with the way my brain works.
So a little bit like that.
Yeah, so that was a little bit easier. And the classes were really small, so that helped because we could all work together.
Okay.
But then also, I mean, the teacher was more available.
Okay.
So that was also helpful.
All right.
Yeah.
So the focus then was golf. The focus was now working through these classes, so that eventually we're going to be a major. Now, at that time, did you have any idea of what you wanted to do post graduation, or was it just kind of no?
No,
Yeah.
I just was literally everything was golf focused.
Okay.
Until I was done.
Okay.
Even though I wanted to do well in my classes, and I did. I mean, I did better in college than I did in high school.
Okay.
I just didn't. I didn't really know where I was going to go. I worked at the mall when I was in college, so that was fun too, to work there. But I was just like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I ended up moving home and working at the mall here.
Okay.
Because that made sense. I knew
Sure.
how to do that. Which now in this instance makes sense because I own a retail store, so I guess that was what I was supposed to be doing, to kind of like learn skills from other people.
Right.
But yeah, I had no idea what I was going to do.
Okay. Well, and it sounds like that when you got to college, for some people, the distractions increased dramatically. It sounded like in some ways your distractions actually decreased because being on the golf team, obviously they're demanding that you participate in their training programs and their practicing, and then you have your courses and and then just daily life.
Yeah.
But it almost seemed like things got a little bit more focused.
Yeah, I had less outside activities.
Okay.
For sure. Golf started in February and ended sometimes near November. So, I mean, it took up most of the year.
Right.
And we were practicing every day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that took up a lot of time. Then working outside of that and then having classes, which I took night classes because I'm not a morning person. So that was nice, at least, that I could have class and do homework when I was the most productive.
Okay. All right.
So,
do you think with that increased focus with the coaching and the training program that they had in college, did that change your game? Did it improve? No.
I'm sure I got better. I know I got better, but I didn't change the way that I processed bad shots or
so you'd still get frustrated at yourself and not be able to not recover as well from those.
Those are the nightmares that I have of certain places that I played where I was like, I could have got first place, but then I went double, triple or something, and then you're like, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you talked a little bit about that, your experience maybe working in retail. You may have led to the idea that you now own a retail place, right? And that's Rockford Art Deli, right? But as I was doing a little bit of researching, Rockford Art Deli isn't what originally. I mean that you were involved with working with T-shirt printing prior to that, and the name of that company was?
So it was Pirate Ninja Print Shop.
Pirate Ninja Print Shop. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was just custom screen printing.
Okay.
We were doing some fun stuff.
Okay.
And when the waterfront used to be downtown and the entrance used to be right at our intersection, we would sit outside with funny Rockford shirts trying to get people into it, and they were like, no, we only come here for the waterfront. You have nothing else going for you. Why would we care about Rockford? And we were like, but these are cool shirts. You should want to wear these. And nobody cared. So we kind of had the idea that that's what we were going to do from the beginning. It just took a while to condition people to see good things about Rockford.
So you've always been at the location that you're at in Madison State, right?
It's State and First.
State and First, I'm sorry, State and First. And so you've always been at that location.
Yeah.
Okay. And your business partner is
Jared. Yep.
Yeah. And so and when did you guys start working together? When did you and Jared start working together?
I would say when I was done with college.
Okay.
Having the graphic design background then, it kind of helped with being able to prepare artwork, and I mean, I'm good at customer service, so I could help with those things. He had a full-time job at the same time.
Okay.
So I was able to kind of fill some gaps so that he could just come back and print.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
So, but Rockford Art Deli has been more than just custom T-shirts, because there's a lot of different organizations that have tried to, that have done that and try to do that, and others that are just do locally mass production of T-shirts. But Rockford Art Deli, you and Jared have definitely tried to make a bigger imprint than just T-shirts.
Yeah.
And you were kind of alluding to that before. Kylie and I were just talking about one of the T-shirts before we started the show today was Rockford doesn't suck, you do.
Yeah.
Right? And that caught. I remember when I was in your store a long time ago, that caught my attention.
Yeah.
Because at that time, Rockford had a lot of bad press about, and it kind of alluded to what you were just saying when the waterfront was going on. Well, we only come here for the waterfront. We're not going downtown for anything else, let alone Rockford.
Right.
So what made you guys want to make it more than just T-shirts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty easy to fall in love with Rockford. We have a really cool history, and when you actually go out and look for it, there's a really awesome community. And so being downtown, we kind of got involved with that really early and kind of formed this small group of people downtown where we all worked together and kind of had each other's backs. A lot of businesses were opening around the same time. Some of the restaurants were all about the same age, so the businesses kind of got to grow together, which was really nice. But yeah, I don't know, it just made sense. I just knew that I loved Rockford, so being that we loved it and we knew other people that loved it, we didn't really understand why so many people hated it. Right. And so for us, we were like, we need to make people love Rockford again. We need to give them something that they can show their friends or family or send to people that have moved away or whatever, because people do love it. Yeah. It's just kind of like they secretly love it. Like they were embarrassed to tell people they loved it because everyone hated it so much. So yeah, we had to break that.
Well, it's, I think it's interesting. I think there is a dynamic of, wherever you grow up is you want to be somewhere else, right? Yeah. I mean, so I think there's a natural piece of that. And then, unfortunately, what was happening is that I think then it wasn't just the young adults or the teenagers that were saying that, which is a natural part of needing to break away from the home and break away from the parents, but then the adults were saying it too. And then there was just this negativity and this pessimism about it, and there was certain things that were going on that changed, structure-wise, and the downtown, had been ignored, and for a long time. So I think there was some reality that was happening. But it was very much like you say, and I think of just now knowing this a little bit about your background. Rockford was built on one of the ethnic groups that really had a huge impact on the Rockford area was the Swedish community that came here, and they were builders, and they were and did a phenomenal job with not only with machining, but also furniture building, and there was a lot of the technical end. So I imagine for your dad to come here, it wasn't like it was Rockford was known in Sweden, for where a lot of people came, and so I think home probably means a little bit different from a family standpoint for you as well. well.
Yeah.
So, and also involved with some other things, not just, with Rockford Art Deli, but because there's a lot of individuals that are downtown that have small businesses and have been growing, and now the momentum has definitely turned the other way, and it's amazing to go down, because I was a security guard for the Metro Center during on the waterfront days, and it was you're right, it was very desolate when it wasn't that Labor Day weekend, and but it has changed tremendously. But you've been involved with a lot of other things as far as Ignite and other organizations. Tell us a little bit about what's been that passion to be involved with, to be more than just RAD, more than just Rockford Art Deli.
Well, I think for one of our focuses at RAD is about community involvement, so it was important that I find some boards or organizations to work with, because I can't really be about community involvement if I'm not involved.
Right.
So I started with Ignite. That made the most sense. My friend was kind of the leader of it, so it was an easy transition to get into that. So I started helping with whatever I could, but then mostly was just their marketing director. So I would just do all of the promotional materials or their Facebook or whatever they needed for that. And so from there, I joined. Well, I guess next would probably be Swedish Historical Society, so I'm on that board now, which is kind of exactly opposite of what Ignite is, but it's still really exciting and interesting. They do so many things, I think, that Rockford doesn't really know about.
Sure,
so hopefully people kind of figure that out, because they have a really cool series of things that they do and events that are, very small groups of people, which is really actually kind of nice sometimes, because you can learn a little bit more. I also work on the Academy sport team at Jefferson. I think Jefferson is one of the best high schools that we have. I have no allegiance to any specific high school, so if, let's not start any wars, but they have been kind of at the forefront of the academy stuff, and so that was really interesting to me. So working with them, which I still do, I think it's been maybe like 5 years that I've been working with them. So that's really cool, because I can go into the classrooms with that, and then we also host a lot of field trips. Which is really exciting, because we're getting the kids more involved.
Do you work with us? Are you working at the academy level at Jefferson at more the higher level, or are you working with a specific academy?
So what was BAMIT is now business. So sure. I'm on that academy support team.
I understand.
Yeah. So I may be wrong, but I think every high school that has academies has support teams for each academy. So we're a group of teachers, and we've also invited parents in. We have students that come in, and then community members. So I've just recently, in the past 2 years, I've done some stuff with Jefferson regarding the BAMIT Academy, and they've had me come out and speak a couple times for the suicide awareness program. And you're right. I was very impressed with how organized and how much the kids are involved in some of the art that they put out. And I was in the last 2 years, Rockford has also been involved with the capstone projects, and so I've been involved with some of those. We have an event over at Auburn High School this coming weekend, Easter weekend, and so when the shows, this may be unfortunately already over, but it was about a program in which a young person was talking about breaking the discrimination about coming out from in being homosexual or bisexual, and so I think they're allowing that piece of not only the creative piece to come out, but then learning behind the scenes all the other things regarding promotion and renting a venue and making all those connections. So I've been very impressed with what the capstone project can be. Yeah, if the kids take it seriously, it's amazing what they can do. I've definitely sat in quite a few capstone presentations, and sometimes you wonder what they did for a year, and sometimes you're like, how did you get all of this done? So it's really interesting to see how everyone kind of takes their own direction and what they do with it. It's always exciting.
I agree. So when you think of going back to the idea of just like with golf and some of the other things in business, because a lot of people have ideas about what they want to do with business, and I think it always has to start with an idea or start off with curiosity. And I don't know if there's ever going to be a perfect time. Obviously, there's worse times than others, and I've had that experience with a couple of business initiatives, but I don't think there's ever a time where everything's going to be perfectly aligned. It's just, sometimes you just got to take that leap of faith and just go. But as you think, and obviously Rockford Art Deli has been around for a long time. It's been how many years? 9 years?
No, it's been a little over 8.
8 years, okay.
Yeah, and the storefront will be 7 in September.
Okay, so that is definitely long enough to have gone through the initial couple years of figuring out, okay, it's more than just a flash in the pan now, and you've had to go through some cycles. If you could think back as RAD is its own entity, and then obviously having a partnership, having two owners, and it sounds like you guys do really well with what each one of your roles are, and that works out really well too.
Yeah, it wasn't always like that, but then once we sat down and kind of went, what do you think you do and what do you think I do, and made lists and comparing them and saying, oh, okay, so we don't have anything similar on our list. So that was kind of nice that we weren't like, no, I do that and we do the same thing. So that was good, but then it kind of helped us get it on paper of like, okay, this is your responsibility and this is mine, or I can do that for you because I'm better at it, or whatever. And so that was nice to kind of like get it on paper, so it makes more sense now.
Oh, and I think that's huge, because at first we're just bootstrapping, right? We're just doing anything we can just to get going and meet the needs and survive.
And we didn't have employees either, so we were doing all of that stuff too. And
that's part of what you do when you first start, right? And now you have employees, and now it's grown and it has a bigger presence and it has a bigger mission and message. What would be, and maybe you just said, if there's other things that were like, let's say, setbacks or learning experiences, or we tried this one and well, maybe it was a good idea on paper but it didn't turn out. Is there any ones that stand out in your mind that you it was a setback at the time but ended up being a learning opportunity later?
I don't think there's anything specific, but I know that we're always checking ourselves. Or, if Jared has an idea, I'm like, we need to think about this for a while before we do it, because he's very much like, has an idea, wants to do it, can do it, but is it the right thing to do is always the question. So I think there's times where we get really excited about something and we talk about it for 2 years and then we never do it because maybe it just really didn't work. But there's definitely, t-shirt ideas that we've done, or, products that we're like, this would be awesome, people are going to love this product, and then nobody likes it. So there's stuff like that, but nothing huge that was a game changer. We just kind of do things and we kind of reassess and decide if we're going in the right direction or not, and we just adjust from there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And it sounds like neither one of you had formal training in business. No. And so it was, and I'm in the same, similar. I was a therapist who became an entrepreneur. Or maybe was an entrepreneur that was a therapist that then started a business. I don't know exactly. But, and I didn't know what I didn't know, thank goodness, or I probably would have never started. And I just had a very strong need not to fail. And similar to yourself, when you talked about that feeling when you mess up on the golf course, I know what that feeling's like, and I don't like that feeling, and I definitely didn't want to be business-wise. So it probably initially led me to be cautious at times, and probably maybe not missed opportunities, but ignored opportunities that could have been there. but at times, I eventually learned to, similar to what you said, write things down, settle down, ask other individuals that I trust their judgment and trust their wisdom, and help me to, process some things.
Yeah, so. I think that's really important, just to have some sort of sounding board of people that you trust to give you a real opinion. That has certainly helped with some things, because you can't have all the answers yourself.
Right. Yeah.
It would be nice, but it doesn't make any sense.
And it would be boring that way, right?
Right, yeah, it'd be so lonely and boring. So that's huge to be able to have. So I have like a group text with people when I'm coming out with a new shirt design or something, that I always text these people, what do you think about this? And then they'll be like, no, this is bad, or whatever. Okay. But I appreciate that, because there are a bunch of different types of people who would potentially be my customer. So if I like it, doesn't make any difference. Right. Someone else has to like it too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. I have. I'm very fortunate that I have some people, starting with my wife, who I'll throw ideas by, and she has no problem telling me.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
I tell the story that I would bring her into buildings that I was thinking about buying when I first was expanding KP, and she would walk into the buildings and she would just nope, this one's not going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then I would bring her to another building, and she goes, this will work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no matter what I try to do to talk her into the other ones, it didn't matter. She just was like, you can do what you want, but I don't.
But you wanted my opinion, so here it is.
So, so it's been very good for me to rely on her when it comes to those things. And again, she doesn't necessarily have the business background or any of those, but those are just, for her, would be just distractions anyways, because she's going more based on intuition.
Right.
So if you think of looking back on the last 7-8 years of Rockford Art Deli, if you look at that time period, and you personally, as an owner, as well as what the business has done, has there been anything you were like, wow, okay, that was cool. I'm glad we did that. I'm glad this is happening. Maybe bigger than you thought it was going to be, or maybe it did reach what you. It begins to reach what you wanted.
Yeah, I think in this moment there are probably 2 things that stand out.
Okay. Maybe
3. One would be the. It's going to be really bad that I don't remember what it's called. When the Visitors Bureau did their 40 portraits of kind of influencers, isn't really the right word, but people in the community, they asked us to be a part of that, which was insane. Yeah. Because you're looking at like this doctor who's doing all these medical advances, and you have like the mayor and all these people, and then they're like, and you, and we're like, we don't fit in here. This doesn't make any sense. But that was a really cool exhibit to be a part of, because they showed it at the art museum, and then they put the portraits all around the city so that people would go around and see them. So that was really humbling. And then after that, we were part of the beginning of the Illinois Makers program. Okay. So the whole state of Illinois promotes all their makers, and so they started that program. They launched it in our store, so that's where they did the press conference, and so they started out with just a small amount of people, and now it's growing to this huge network that spans all of Illinois, which is still very crazy for me to think about. That they were like, you guys of course need to be in this, and we're like, what? Okay, sure. Yeah. Nice. We make things. Yeah. So that's been cool. And they've had events where we've got to go and like meet the other makers and learn about what they do, which is, super interesting. Illinois is not a small state, so there's a huge span of what people are doing, which is cool. And then the last one would probably be that we are launching on Friday a scholarship through Rock Valley. So we will be able to give people scholarships to go to school there.
Oh, really?
So anyone entering some sort of creative field can receive the Stay Rad scholarship.
Oh, interesting.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
And very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. And and I think that's what I was most drawn to your story about, Brittany, was that it was more than just T-shirts. It was more than just a retail store. It was, like you said, a mission. It was more of that message that you wanted to get out, and it was a very much for anybody who's listening who wants to understand what does a grassroots project look like and a movement look like, and that's very much what you guys have done with that, and had a lot of fun in the process.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, obviously it comes with frustration at different times too, but it was more of this idea of movement because if I remember correctly, now I think Jared told me this, I'm not 100% sure, but did you guys have something possibly to do with influencing the 815? Because I see 815 everywhere, and it has been for a few years.
Yeah. So we started making that shirt probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
That was the most frustrating week of my entire life because I was trying to make a different design for the city market that week, and it wasn't working. 4:30 a.m. on Friday comes around. I still don't have a design for the market that day, and I looked at the calendar, and I was like, oh, it's August 15th. We should just do an 815 shirt today. And here we are. Everyone has 815 on everything now.
Yes.
So.
And a tie to everything.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think I never heard the August 15th piece. Okay, so I never heard that piece.
Because I just know that because I was trying to make this other stupid design, and it's a very good thing that didn't work out because it was not going to be that great. So,
well, and obviously for the tie-in for people that aren't from this area that may be listening, but obviously that was in the midst of that breakthrough that you had, and yes, it was for that Friday the 15th of August that you were trying to get this design to do, but that also is the largest area code for the Rockford area, and
it's like most of northern Illinois has 815. It skips Chicago, but it goes like all the way in a diagonal. It's like it goes from one end of the state to the other.
Okay. So all the way from the middle to the northwest of.
It goes like under Chicago and then goes up into the top corner. So it's like a huge section.
I did not know that either.
Yeah, it's very huge.
And the idea about being proud of where you are has been the message of RAD all along.
Yeah.
And so just to come up with that now, it's been very interesting because I know a lot of other groups have now used that, regardless if it's the Just Breathe with Kevin Ware, with the homeless, clothing the homeless teens, to different other types of health and wellness initiatives. It is interesting to me that it started with you guys. The mission, overall, your mission was to be proud of where you're at, be proud of Rockford. And again, it's hard to own that, right? But you own the story of how it began,
right?
And it's part of who you guys are.
Yeah, and I mean, it's an example of we knew there'd be something that people would hold on to that would make them proud, and I guess if it's an 815 shirt, then that's cool with me. You know, it doesn't have to be one of our funny Rockford shirts or whatever. But the 815 is by far our top 5 items every month.
Yeah. And you guys have done some phenomenal ways of being creative with that, and
we have to because we can't get rid of them. But we need to make more because people want more 815 stuff. So sometimes it's a struggle to figure out how to put 815 on a shirt again. And we have an 815 t-shirt club, so every month we are sending out an 815 shirt that no one else has.
Interesting.
So sometimes that's challenging. Yeah.
But I think, Brittany, with what your desire and what you and Jared have wanted to do to be proud of where you're at, this is where you're at. You guys love the Rockford area and have deep roots here and experiences here, and wherever you're at, is where you're at.
Right.
You need to be proud of where you're at.
Yeah.
If not, then you need to go somewhere else and be proud there.
Or figure out why you're not proud of it and then help.
Exactly.
Because then you can make a difference and maybe be proud of it too.
Yeah. I agree. And I think that for me was the reason why I stayed in Rockford. It wasn't what I thought I was going to do. I thought I was going to be moving after graduating from college or only come back for a short time period. But once I, made the decision because primarily getting married and my wife is from here and wanted to be with family and I was okay. I was very much okay with that too. But once we're here, then, okay, where can I make a difference?
Right.
How can I make this home, not just where I live?
Yeah. And you guys are doing an amazing job. I thank you for what you're doing because you aren't just a counselor in the area. You aren't just someone who's, speaking at events. You have a huge impact on our community. So that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's I appreciate you saying that. And this particular platform of using the journey to let people know more about people like yourself and know your story a little bit more, because I believe if we know someone else's story, maybe then that can give us hope or give us courage, or if there has been setbacks or the things that you've gone through, then maybe I can do that too. And that's really what this has all been about, and just maybe another way of reaching out. So, thank you very much for that compliment.
Yeah.
And Brittany, if there's anything that you wanted to share with anybody listening, either from someone who's, from the golfer to the artist to the different things that you learned with that, to the different things that you've learned as being a business owner and all the opportunities that have come from you just being true to who you guys are with creating Rockford Art Deli. I think that's why you're being recognized at the regional level and the state level for what you're doing. If there's anything you wanted to share with anybody listening, what would you want to part with?
I think one of the things I always tell people is you have to just kind of be where you're at. And even if you have a job that you don't love or something's happening that just isn't your favorite thing, there's always something that you can learn from it and take into the next thing. So, like for me, I didn't know retail was going to take me to retail.
Right.
I just thought I was, working in this job, but I always try to take something out of every experience so that later on I can maybe utilize it. So even if it's not amazing, there's something you're going to learn from it. Yeah. Even if it's learning something you don't like, then you can be strong in your conviction that you don't like it, and moving forward, you can change kind of the path that you're taking.
I think you're right with that, is that all those different things in your journey led to where you're at now, including your grandparents making the decision to come here. And your parents sharing those stories about what was going on, and your dad talking about wanting you to participate in contributing to your own college, and all those different things led to why it's so important for you to live the way you're doing now. Yeah, I wouldn't change anything, even the bad stuff. Just it's all for a reason, for sure. Perfect. Well, Brittany, thank you very much for being on the journey and sharing your story. And even though I knew a little bit about you, now I feel like I know a whole bunch more. Yeah, it's awesome. So thank you very much. Thank you. So thank you for being with us today on the journey, and we will be seeing you next week for another episode of The Journey. Thank you. Awesome.